my name is Rebecca Richardson, but most people call me Becky, and today we're doing the Halloween song book tag. I was tagged by Nicole from A Beautiful Chaos of Books. She also created the tag, so I will link her video in the description down below, and thank you, Nicole. I was kind of hoping to do something spooky with the background, but for a start you don't see much of it anyway, and also I kind of didn't think about that until about 5 seconds ago, so didn't really end up happening, but I hope you can appreciate the pumpkin earrings that I don't know if you can see on the camera. They're cute, tiny pumpkins, so that's my contribution to Halloween for this video. I promise I'll make up to it with the next one. I'm also going to apologise for the absolutely hideous lighting that just appeared, because the sun has decided to come out all day. There has been grey clouds in the sky, and just now it's decided to break through, and my camera can't quite correct the light to show my face and dim the brightness you can see coming through the window at the same time. So there's probably going to be a lot of white light and a lot less of my face, which to be fair might not be a bad thing, so we're just going to have to work with it, I think. So with bad lighting and without further ado, let's get on with the questions. So question 1 is Thriller, and this is a book that was an absolute page turner, and for this I chose Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J Maas. Obviously it's kind of difficult to describe this particular book in the series because it's the 7th, so I can't really say anything without spoilers, but to go over the general Throne of Glass series, we follow a girl called Selena Sardothian, also known as Ardlan's assassin. In this particular book, she is fighting for her kingdom that is currently under attack by an evil force from another dimension. I literally can't say anything more than that without spoiling the entire plot of the book. If I put it there, can you? No, you can't. Do you see the issue I'm having with the lighting? The reason I've chose this book to represent an absolute page turner for me is because that's exactly what it was for me. I think I read this book in 2 weeks, which for me, given how thick this book is, that was super quick. Usually when I'm reading a book, I challenge myself to read 50 pages and then I say I can go do something else. But this was the first book in a while that I didn't need to do that. I just wanted to read it. I was setting myself alarms for like 3 hours saying, right, when you hit that alarm, you have to go do something else. And then I would find myself snoozing that alarm just to get an extra 10 minutes of reading in. And it has been such a long time since I've had that kind of reading experience. It's just so action-packed, which I think is why it kept me hooked so well. I am very, very picky when it comes to books. The pace has to be ridiculously fast, otherwise I'm bored, which is probably an unpopular opinion. I know people quite like a fast pace, but not too fast. But with me, there has to be action all the time, otherwise I will just put it down and never pick it back up again. With this, there's so much battle going on. At one point there's like 3 different battles happening at once and it keeps flipping between them, and I just love that so much. I always knew going into a chapter that something big was going to be happening and it would be something that would keep me reading, and that excitement definitely made it a really, really good read for me, and that is why I chose it as an absolute page turner. Question 2 is Somebody's Watching Me, a book that gave you the serious creeps, and I chose Blue Lily Lily Blue by Maggie Stiefvater. Right. I know when we talk about scary books, The Raven Cycle isn't supposed to be a scary book. So quick fact about me, I hate horror. I hate horror so much, I don't understand why people want to be scared. I just don't enjoy it. So I've never read a horror or a thriller, and I don't really ever plan on doing such a thing. I just don't enjoy it. So this book was scary for me. The Raven Cycle was a scary series, just because of some of the imagery that's in it. I know I sound stupid. I know I sound like a laughing stock sat here trying to prove why The Raven Cycle is a scary series, but like, if you haven't read Blue Lily Lily Blue, this is the 3rd book in the Raven Cycle series, and it follows Blue Sergeant along with her interesting group of private school friends as they try to wake someone known as a sleeper, or is it like the 3rd sleeper? Or the first one of them. There's 3 sleepers, they're trying to wake one of them, and the main plot of this particular book follows them trying to find the cave that they believe this sleeper is sleeping in. The main reason I found this book particularly creepy out of the Raven Cycle series is mainly because of Noah. Noah is freaky, nobody can convince me otherwise. He's soft like 40% of the time, and then he's creepy as hell the other 60% of the time. Particularly in this book, there is a bit where Blue and Noah are doing a garden for this man who lives in a little village somewhere, and while Blue is doing the garden, Noah just very suddenly goes incredibly creepy, and he's like in her face reciting something. I can't remember what. Is he saying blue lily lily blue? Something like that. And it gets really weird really quick, and I was just like, please stop. I can't remember which book it is because these do all just kind of blur into one eventually, but I think it's also this one when everybody in 300 Foxway, which is the house that Blue lives in, starts to act weird. And it turns out that that is also due to something that is going on with Noah at the time, and it's also creepy, and just it genuinely scared me slightly, which sounds absolutely ridiculous, calling a YA fantasy book scary, I know. But this book did genuinely give me the creeps because of Noah. Noah just in general gives me the creeps, and that is why I chose it for this. Question 3 is Vampire, a book you hated so much it was soul-sucking. And for this, I chose City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. City of Bones follows a teenage girl called Clary trying to find her mother after her mum is kidnapped, and to find her she has to work with these group of demon hunters known as Shadow Hunters. I kind of feel bad choosing this because, don't get me wrong, I love the Shadowhunter Chronicles. I read every new book that comes out still. In fact, Cassandra Clare's books were the only thing I read for about 4 years. When I was 14, City of Bones was like my favourite book on the face of the planet. However, I recently reread it. You might have seen it in a few videos. And it was a very different experience to the first time. I think I viewed it more critically this time than what I did when I was 14. And there was just a lot that I didn't enjoy about this. There were certain characters that felt a bit weird, and there is so much girl hating that goes on that it was physically impossible to continue reading. It got to the point I genuinely had a headache every time I tried to read it because of the stuff that was happening and being said. And it's just, you can tell that this was 2007 that it was written in, if that makes sense. Like, it reads old now. And in the end, I didn't actually finish it. I DNF'd it on page 400. I suppose it's not technically a proper DNF because I have read this before, but I just couldn't. I knew what was coming up. Everything had been so difficult so far. It was genuinely soul-sucking, like physically draining to read. And every time things seemed they could get no worse, there was a voice in the back of my head like, oh, you haven't got to the incest yet. And I was like, oh, you know what? You're right. It does get worse. And so in the end, I just ended up putting it down. Question 4 is I Put a Spell on You, a book featuring witchcraft or magic, and for this I chose The Bane Chronicles by Cassandra Clare. The Bane Chronicles is a spin-off book from the Shadowhunter Chronicles following Magnus Bane, who is a warlock. It is a novella bind-up, so like each story in this tells a different story, but the overall theme is that we're learning about Magnus's life and his friends and the things he's done over the years. I know I was just talking about how much I didn't enjoy a Cassandra Clare book, but this one I loved. This is what I mean. It's not like a case of I didn't enjoy the Shadowhunter Chronicles, I just didn't enjoy City of Bones. This I read maybe 2 years ago, and I think it was the first book I've ever read that genuinely made me laugh out loud. Like, it was just so funny. Magnus as a character is so funny. I don't think I know anybody who's read the Shadowhunter Chronicles who doesn't have Magnus at least in their top 3 favourite characters. Like, he's just that character. Some of the stories in here are just so funny. Some of the bits off the top of my head I can think of include when he pushes Marie Antoinette into an invisible hot air balloon. Another when he's on a flying carpet and 2 of his friends, Katerina and Ragnar, are running through the desert trying to catch him. There's just so many odd things that happen in this book, but they're all like, yeah, that's something Magnus would do. And of course there is a theme of magic and witchcraft in this, as Magnus is a warlock. A few times in it we see him either having to save people with his magic or doing jobs for people that involve magic, which is why I chose the Bane Chronicles to represent this particular question. Question 5 is This Is Halloween, your favourite treat to eat while reading. I don't have anything that I really eat when I'm reading. I just can't multitask very well, and then there's like crumbs in books and it's just a mess, so we tend to kind of avoid that. However, I do drink while reading, and I tend to drink fruit shoots. I don't know if they have fruit shoots outside of the UK or whether that's one of those things that only exists here, but if they don't exist outside of the UK, fruit shoots are basically kids' drinks that are incredibly sugary and filled with lots of artificial sweeteners probably, and they're supposed to taste like fruit. The ones I tend to drink are the orange fruit shoots just because I really enjoy them. I guess I don't really have a reason. They're definitely not healthy. They're probably not even the best tasting things. They're just easy and I enjoy them, so that's what I tend to drink while I'm reading. Question 6 is Time Warp. What books do you like to return to at this time of year? And I don't tend to return to books often. I'm not a big rereader, so there isn't any particular to this time of year that I'd go back to. However, a book series that I'm hoping to reread soon is Harry Potter by J.K. Rowling. I haven't read Harry Potter in years. I think I was 11 when I read them, and I used my mum's old battered copies. She has like the original versions that I always see people trying to find online now, and they were so old that there wasn't actually even a dust jacket on Order of the Phoenix. It was just the black hardback of it. However, I have my own nice copy now. Oh, there we go. When we hit the sun, you can see it a bit better. and so I would actually like to sit and read these at some point. I'm also gonna watch the movies, I think, again, because I used to like know lines from the movies off by heart. In Goblet of Fire, when Cedric dies and then Dumbledore makes that entire speech at the end about him, I knew that off by heart when I was like 14. So I do think I'm due a reread of them. I'm hoping that I like them as much as I did. I did struggle with the first few just because they are written for a really young age, and even when I was like 11, 12, it felt like it was too young for me. But I do think it'll kind of be more of a case of nostalgia that will get me through the first few so I can get onto the ones that I really enjoyed. So yeah, I am really looking forward to hopefully getting around to this at some point. I might make a few videos on it when I do actually go around to reading Harry Potter. The lighting's got worse, hasn't it? Or have I just not realised that it's got this bad? Can I get... Yeah, that's too bright. We can't even do that. I'm just gonna... Yeah, I wish there was something I could do about this. Subscribe so I can hit 1,000 subs and then I can get money and buy lights. There we go. That's... Help me not have to deal with this. Anyway, question 7 is Hungry Like the Wolf, a book you loved so much you devoured, and for this I chose Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo, which you can't see. I was going to choose Six of Crows for this because once I got into it, I did find myself unable to put it down. However, after the first like 100 pages, I did put it down to read some stuff for homework, and I didn't pick it up again until about 2 months later, so I didn't really think I could count that. However, I did read Crooked Kingdom in a week, which is really fast for me when it comes to book reading. Again, trying to avoid spoilers because this is a sequel. Crooked Kingdom follows 6 criminals as they face the fallout of a business job gone wrong. I think is the best non-spoilery way to put it. The entirety of this book takes place in the city of Ketterdam, which was really fun because we didn't see too much of Ketterdam in the first book, and the whole thing follows lots of random little plots that our main man Kazbek comes up with as he tries to foil the plan of a big businessman. This, a bit like Kingdom of Ash, I thought was a lot more fast-paced than other books I've read, mainly because of all the different plot lines that were happening. A lot of this book was Kaz telling people to do different jobs, and then you seeing these different jobs play out, and then if they went wrong, you'd see another job play out straight after. It did make it a little confusing for me, just because my head struggles to process lots of different plot lines at once, but reading it was very fast paced and very fun to read. Partly since I didn't really know what was happening sometimes, it made everything more of a shock when things happened, and I was like, oh, that's what they're doing, even though I was probably supposed to know in some cases beforehand. But nevertheless, this was a book I devoured, and I really hope we get a book 3 someday. I'm trying to limit the light by shutting the curtains more and more, but if I do that, then there'll be no light. So it's just, let's just try that. What happens if I just... You know what, that's actually quite possibly better. I'm not going to leave it like this, but this is actually quite possibly better. Maybe I should just do spooky hand shadows for the rest of this video, since that seems to be what this has become. Question 8 is The Addams Family, a book that features a dysfunctional family, and for this I chose Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. Yes, this is the 3rd Cassandra Clare book in this video. Don't attack me. Lady Midnight follows Emma Carstairs as she tries to work out what happened to her parents when their dead bodies were found on a beach 5 years ago, I believe. This is set 5 years, again, I think, after the event of City of Heavenly Fire, which is the last book in the Mortal Instruments series. And so a lot of it follows not only Emma's dead parents, but also the fallout of the battle that happened in City of Heavenly Fire. That is where our dysfunctional family comes in, the Blackthorns. I love the Blackthorns so much, I think they're brilliant, but they are definitely not the easiest of families. Julian Blackthorn, who is the 3rd eldest sibling, I believe, is actually the one in charge of all of his younger siblings. This is due to the fact that during the War of City of Heavenly Fire, his eldest brother was kidnapped by fairies, his eldest sister was sent away because she was part fairy, and he had to kill his father to save the rest of the family. That leaves Julian at the ripe age of 12 as of City of Heavenly Fire to look after these kids, and by the time we join them, he is 17, trying to raise 4 younger siblings. The family parts of these books are actually my favourite when you see all of the Blackthorns interacting, just the little things when Julian's making them pancakes or when they're all bickering with each other, just when they're acting like a normal family or as normal as their family can get. Julian Blackthorn is one of my favourite characters, and I'm hoping in the Wicked Powers Ty will also become one of my favourite characters, and just the dynamic that they all have throughout the Dark Artifices is so fun and so light. Most of the time, if you've read Lord of Shadows, you know, but not including that. Everybody's super happy all the time in this family. Question 9 is Scary Monsters, a genre you are scared or intimidated to pick up. And for this, I would usually say contemporary. Contemporary books tend to be something I avoid. However, it's not because I'm scared or intimidated by them. It's just because I'll probably find it fairly boring. Every contemporary book I've tried to read I found boring. So as far as the genre goes that I'm actually scared to pick up, I think probably like dark adult fantasy. This mainly comes up due to the release of Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo recently, which everybody is talking about and I really want to read. However, having seen the list of the many things that happen in that book, I just don't think I can pick it up. And that is annoying because I do wish I could pick it up. But certain things that are listed just sound so uncomfortable and I don't think I could read it. However, I do think that one day I might, when I've kind of like grown a backbone, maybe I might start picking up some dark fantasy, but it is definitely something that intimidates me as somebody who likes to read light fluffy things a lot. If the light goes any further, I could have a light mustache, can I? Yay! Question 10 is The Twilight Zone, a book with a completely different and unique premise, and for this I chose The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. Again, yes, we've already had another book from this same series in this. I know I'm working on my reading. The reason I chose The Raven Boys is because if you ask anybody what The Raven Boys is about, either they'll all tell you something very different or they won't give you an answer because nobody knows what The Raven Boys is about. In general, this book follows, again, Blue Sargent and her group of interesting private school friends as they try to track down a Welsh king who one of them, Gansey, believes isn't actually dead but is instead sleeping on a ley line somewhere. This book is definitely different and unique. I can't name another book that follows this plotline just because this plotline goes everywhere. There are many tropes, of course, as there is in every book, but I couldn't sit here and tell you another book that has the same plotline or a very similar plotline to this because it just doesn't seem possible. You know, sure, there's probably other books about Welsh kings or about teenagers trying to find things, but is it the same as The Raven Boys? Probably not. A brief summary of some of the things that we see in The Raven Boys. There is a forest where the trees speak Latin. There is a boy who can pull things from his dreams, including a bird he calls Chainsaw. There is a family of psychics who all believe that Blue will kill her true love if she kisses him. There's colour-changing fish, a fortune-telling tree, a very rich man with a helicopter. There's just so many things happening in this book that I don't possibly think something could end up in a situation where you can say, oh, this book is so similar to The Raven Boys, and the same for the rest of the Raven Cycle series. But that is it. As the light crawls further up my face, that is the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you dealt with this and made it to the very end. Thank you again to Nicole from A Beautiful Chaos of Books for tagging me. Again, her video will be in the description down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you, and the light will probably also see you very soon. Bye! Don't stop, you have to do like a...